Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to think about a time you bought the objectively, on paper, absolute best software or gadget out there, but then you ended up completely abandoning it like a week later. Why exactly does that happen? Well, today we're challenging the traditional super spec heavy approach to marketing, and we're uncovering the hidden engine of true customer loyalty. If you've ever found yourself wondering why the absolute best product doesn't always win the market, you are in the exact right place. We're going to look closely at the data and the psychology behind why buyers actually remember your brand. And spoiler alert, it has very little to do with your feature list.
So what do your buyers actually remember about you? Seriously, think about your last major purchase. You probably spent hours comparing exact dimensions, specific processing speeds, maybe precise thread counts. You might have even built a whole spreadsheet to compare everything. We've all been there. But right now, sitting here today, do you remember a single one of those specific numbers? Probably not. The brain is just incredibly efficient at ditching raw data the second a decision is made. So what exactly is taking up all that valuable real estate in your customer's memory? The answer might completely change how you run your business.
All right, part one, the product specification trap, specs versus feelings.
So brands often operate in this world of cold, hard logic, right? They're relentlessly pushing technical details, features, and raw data. But customers, we live in the messy, human world of emotion. Think about it. If your software loads half a second faster, sure, that's a technical spec. But if that half second of speed prevents a user from sweating and full-on panicking right before a massive boardroom presentation, well, that is an emotional memory. The reality is, a lot of companies pour massive resources into outlining every single technical detail while completely underestimating that emotional reality. Your buyers are absolutely going to forget those technical specs the moment they log off. What they will literally never forget is that you saved them from panic. They anchor deeply to feelings of stress, empowerment, reassurance, or joy.
Moving on to Section 2, the power of emotional memory. Let's dive into the core psychology here.
So the quote goes, customers may forget technical details quickly, but they remember whether the experience felt stressful, empowering, reassuring, or enjoyable. And this is just a completely foundational premise of buyer psychology. Think about the physical act of an awesome unboxing experience. It isn't just about premium packaging, it's creating a literal chemical reward in the brain. You get this tiny hit of dopamine and boom, that brand is cemented in a positive light. Conversely, a confusing, totally overwhelming multi-page checkout process that actively spikes cortisol. These emotional impressions don't just vanish into thin air, they become hardwired directly to your brand identity. Did the software make them feel brilliant and capable? Was your support team actually reassuring during a moment of crisis? These feelings outlast any feature list by a mile, and they serve as the concrete foundation of how the market perceives your value over time.
Which brings us to number 3, designing confidence and relief. This is basically the high-performer playbook.
Top-tier, high-performing brands, they absolutely do not leave these emotions to chance. They systematically engineer specific emotional outcomes at every single touchpoint. When they craft their messaging, the goal isn't just to sound clever or list a dozen benefits. It's actively designed to create confidence in the buyer's mind. And when a customer reaches out to support, the whole objective shifts. The goal isn't merely to close a ticket as fast as humanly possible. Instead, the support communication is purposefully designed to create calmness. Imagine the difference between getting a robotic auto-reply with some sterile ticket number versus a warm, human message acknowledging your frustration and promising a real person will look into it within the hour. One creates intense anxiety, the other creates immediate relief. The entire customer experience is meticulously crafted to actively avoid frustration. This isn't an accident, guys. It's a highly intentional, engineered emotional journey.
All right, part 4, fueling referrals and retention. We're uncovering the compounding ROI of getting this right.
Emotional memory dramatically strengthens your referral engine. Think about the last time you recommended a new tool or a service to a coworker. You probably didn't do it just to recite a feature list you randomly memorized from their website. You recommended it because using that tool made you feel incredibly smart, capable, and ahead of the curve. It's just human nature. We want to share that feeling of being capable with our peers. People naturally recommend brands that make them feel emotionally secure or that fulfill a socially positive need. Sharing a great experience literally boosts the social standing of the person making the recommendation. When you make a buyer feel highly capable, they eagerly want to distribute that capability to their network. Your product's features might get them through the door, but the way your product makes the user feel, that is the actual fuel burning inside your word-of-mouth engine.
And this dynamic doesn't just drive new customer acquisition, it directly, profoundly improves retention. Positive emotional familiarity drastically reduces psychological buyer resistance. Okay, what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, the human brain is pretty lazy. It's constantly seeking out the path of least emotional resistance to conserve energy. We naturally gravitate right back to environments and businesses that don't make us anxious. When a buyer knows instinctively that interacting with your brand makes them feel good, secure, or relieved, it completely removes the mental friction of choosing you again. They don't need to reevaluate the specs or compare alternatives because the emotional trust is already locked in. This emotional perception compounds way deeper and faster than product features ever could. Brands that consistently curate these strong emotional associations become significantly more memorable and infinitely more resilient against competitors over the long haul.
Finally, Section 5, your emotional action plan. Let's cover some micro-tactics you can deploy literally today.
Your actionable takeaway from this explainer is incredibly straightforward, but it carries a massive impact. Step 1. Review your entire customer experience journey from start to finish, mapping out every interaction. Step 2. Relax. You do not need to change everything overnight. Instead, just identify one single specific moment where you can intentionally construct emotional reassurance or confidence. Let's take the first screen of a user onboarding process, for example. What does the before look like? Usually, it's a super feature-heavy wall of text that immediately overwhelms the user. The after version? It strips away all the jargon and simply says, "You're in the right place, we've got you, here's the one easy thing to do next." Find that one moment, maybe it's your checkout page or a post-purchase confirmation email, and completely engineer it for a positive emotional outcome.
So before you make another product pitch, and definitely before you write another dry spec sheet, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Take a really hard look at your current touchpoints and ask yourself, what emotional impression is your brand leaving right now? Are you just building features, or are you actually building feelings? Because as we've seen today, the features will inevitably fade, but it's the feelings that your buyers will ultimately remember forever. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go architect that emotional confidence in your own brand today.